Hey there guys, what's up? Made a new channel here so that I can make some pre-created videos instead of just my streams and VODs and stuff like that. And I thought I would open up with a video about Halo Infinite. Halo's been a series that's been with me ever since I first played Halo 2 over at a friend's house, and I think like 2005 was the first time. I mean, I did a couple times, well, more than once, a lot. But it's a series that I think has always done a really good job of giving the player a really cool like sandbox to mess around with in terms of its campaign, as well as its multiplayer, but mostly its campaign. This, I think, has carried over to the multiplayer as well, like I said. In one case, quite literally, I feel this has been one of the most important kind of design philosophies of the entire series throughout the years. 1, 2, 3, ODST to a lesser extent, but also Reach. But it's one that I think has been a little bit lost in translation, in particularly Halo 4 and 5 as of late. But I think Infinite 343 really did a good job of kind of bringing back, their perspective and thinking to themselves, why do people really, like this series? And, there's several reasons, of course, but I think one of them is that sandbox, like I mentioned. And today I really wanted to talk about how the pickup abilities in the game, I think, really enhance the game and also play into that sandbox while also pushing the series forward and not just being comfortable with nostalgia. Also, I would have made a video like this sooner, but I'm in the process of moving out and still working on top of that, figuring all these logistics out. So hopefully once that's taken care of, I'll be able to make more of these. Wanted to make this like a week and a half ago, to be honest with you. But I'm hoping to be able to make these more often once that's taken care of. So the main two abilities that I'm going to be talking about today are the Grappling Hook and the Repulsor, since I think that they exemplify that kind of sandbox nature that I was talking about earlier the most. Of course, there's the other abilities as well, but I don't think they really show off that as much. The Thruster does a little bit, but I don't really think it's worth talking about since it's so straightforward in its use cases. So I'm going to start off talking about the Grappling Hook first. So the Grappling Hook has a lot of uses and I think is pretty much like the poster child for the game's abilities. It's like the main one you use in the campaign for the most part. I'm mostly going to be talking about the multiplayer, but a lot of stuff tends to apply to both of these actually. It's the primary ability in the campaign, like I said. It has the most amount of uses, arguably. Technically the Repulsor might have more, but the Grapple Hook is obviously the simplest thing the Grappling Hook does is move you from point A to point B, which can help you to, climb up to a higher area to get a better vantage point, close the gap on people. Maybe you have like an energy sword or a gravity hammer or something. Allows you to reposition, potentially get out of a fight. Any number of things that require you to move around quickly. However, another use is that you can actually grab weapons with it, and it will automatically switch the weapon you have equipped to that one. So that can be pretty useful to grab one in a pinch, or potentially grab one without putting yourself into more danger. You can also grab fusion coils with it, which is pretty cool. Not as useful, but it is very funny. It is always funny to grapple a fusion coil and just chuck it at someone, let me tell you. However, even on top of that, you can actually also grab objectives, which some people don't know. Most people know that you could probably grapple the power seeds, for example, but you can actually also grab the flag if it's been removed from the spawn point. I hope I have a clip here, but if I don't, trust me on that, you can. You definitely can. You can also use it to grapple to vehicles and hijack them potentially. Or to a lesser extent, maybe someone's driving the Warthog without someone in the gunner seat, which is something way too many people do, and you could just grapple to it as they're driving past you and hop into the gunner for them. So it doesn't have too many other uses other than that, but the depth really comes in all those options I mentioned, how you tend to approach them. Because like I said, the easiest one is to move from point A to point B, but that can, in your head, especially in a 3D environment kind of game, you guys have probably played plenty games with Grappling Hook, like, Doom and such. Well, granted, Doom, you can only do it to enemies. But the point is that, moving around the environment can be approached in so many different ways, even by itself, let alone all of these other options together. That's why I think, basically any game can be improved with a Grappling Hook. Let's not lie to ourselves. So the second ability that I want to talk about is the Repulsor, which is on paper a somewhat less exciting ability, but it's one that, arguably, even though I said earlier that this may not be the case, it arguably actually has more uses in the Grappling Hook, even if a lot of them tend to be more niche. Given the name, a lot of people assume it's good for repulsing things, as in reflecting, primarily explosives, grenades, and rockets primarily, obviously, which most people don't even know it does that, which is kind of funny. What most people know it for is for the super jump, where basically you jump, aim downwards, and repulse yourself towards the ground so you get some extra height on your jump. Most people think that those are probably the only 2 uses, but actually it has quite a few more. A lot of the other ones are niche, but they all do have their use, and they're very fun to pull off in a lot of cases, I would say. For example, this one most people really don't know, but if you repulse someone into a wall, they actually take damage. It's not a lot of damage at all, as I'll probably show you a clip. It does take quite a few repulses into a wall from someone with full HP to actually kill them. But, it's a use, and it is funny, and you get a hilarious announcer for the medal, which is called Pancake. Pancake. Very appropriate. Obviously, you can knock someone off a cliff, but knocking someone into a wall and killing them is much funnier, if much rarer. Even on top of that, you can actually repulse objects into people. For example, you can actually repulse vehicles into people with enough force to kill them. I'm not sure if you can really do it with enough force to kill someone fully shielded. I haven't quite seen that yet. I had to go into training mode just to get a clip of some of these examples. But you can definitely do it to someone that has their shields down, and it's really funny because you get an incidental splatter kill. And another example on top of that that's actually less niche, arguably, than even unarguably, honestly, than the other examples is canceling out melee animations, where basically if you're in a position of close range combat with someone and you have a reason to try to cancel out their melee animation, whether it's from a weapon like the energy sword, or it's just a regular melee hit. Gravity hammer doesn't work as well, but it at least pushes them away. You can do that. They'll be able to shoot, I believe, a little bit earlier than you, but if they're using a close-range weapon, that doesn't necessarily really help them that much, and it can really turn the tide. I have an example here of me using it and then proceeding to die because I suck at this game, but you could see the potential, let me assure you. And then even on top of all of that, you can also repulse objectives, weapons, all that kind of stuff. That's not really as useful, but you can do it. I mean, if you want to be really petty and someone's about to kill you, I suppose you could drop your power weapon and then repulse it off a cliff. Not very useful, but it is funny, which I think is cool, I guess. It's just something that's kind of neat. So while a lot of those examples are niche, I think it's totally okay for a game. Like in a lot of games, there's tools that have very general purpose kind of applications and some very niche ones, but I think both are kind of important to really create a cool toolkit for players to use and experiment with. I think it's super cool when you can make a good balance of both. So just to reiterate, there are other abilities in the game, primarily the drop wall, the thruster, and the threat sensor, but those abilities are a lot more straightforward. The thrusters to a lesser extent, but I think those are really worthwhile additions to the game, and it's important to have some easier to use and understand abilities in the game on top of the ones I mentioned, but I don't think they really fit the conversation I'm trying to have here, so just to get that out of the way, that's why I didn't really mention them. Also, the elephant in the room arguably is that, Buck, but we've had armor abilities in Reach. This isn't the first time they've done that. Yes and no. I mean, the thing is, without getting into, a crazy rant mode here, but the thing about the armor abilities in Reach is that you start the game with them. So from a balance perspective, they have to kind of tweak them down to be weaker than the things that you see in Infinite to make the game, feel better. Because, you start with them. They can't feel, super powerful because everybody has them, right? So they can't be too game warping, right? And also, they have much more simpler, uses. Like the jetpack, you go up and down. The roll is kind of similar to the thruster in a lot of ways, so that one's a bit of the exception. But most of them are just very simple. Like sprint is an armor ability. I mean, come on. But yeah, I think what also makes the pickups able to be interesting, like I mentioned in the first place, is the fact that they're pickups, so you have to fight over them. But also, like any power weapon, someone can take them from you if they kill you. But that kind of level of interactivity and counterplay is kind of like a separate point that I think the game does do very well, except for the Mangler. I hate that gun. But saltiness aside, I do think the game does a good job of that. It's just not what I wanted to talk about today as much, so maybe I'll make another video on that at some point, but for right now, I just wanted to talk about 343's, I think, approach to the sandbox nature of Halo after learning about, what really makes people like the series after some blunders with 4 and a lot with 5. So yeah, like I said, I'm hoping to make more of these kinds of videos. Maybe some, basically anything I feel like making, to be honest with you. It's not going to be all analytical, I'm not going to lie to you. There's going to be some comedy stuff, I hope. Maybe even some reviews if I really feel like it, but I would want to kind of make some graphics and stuff like that, which isn't really my forte. but I would want to have that kind of ready to have it as like something I could use in like any review for anything really repeatedly. So you probably wouldn't see something like that for a while, but we'll see. And now that my moving out is almost done, I'm hoping to make more of these, but you might not see the next one for a little while until that process is over. But yeah, thanks for watching. I have my stream link below. It also should link to the VOD channel because Twitch tends to delete VODs, of course. So yeah, thank you for sticking around. I hope to make the next one relatively soon, but again, next one may take a while. Thanks again, and I will see you guys around.